Yo, what's up? It's your favorite neighborhood historian, Dilla, and if you're enjoying Labor Day, spending time with the family, there's really one American city you need to thank: Chicago. Okay, I'm not saying the idea of a Labor Day holiday was born in Chicago. After all, New York celebrated a day for labor in 1882. What I am saying is that there was no real organizational thought put behind Labor Day until 1884, and it happened in Chicago. And since we're on the subject of labor, you can also thank Chicago for the 8-hour workday. The Haymarket Riot of 1884, which happened in Chicago, would change the country forever. After their trial and execution, August Spies, Albert Parsons, and others would go on to become martyrs in the labor movement. While individual states and cities would start to enact Labor Day laws, it would take an event in Chicago to make it a national holiday. George Pullman, who famously lifted Chicago out of the mud and who's also responsible for transporting Abraham Lincoln's body from Washington, D.C. to Springfield, he constructed a company town right outside of Chicago. When the economy took a turn for the worse in 1894, old George decided to cut wages, but he didn't lower the rent. So in some cases, your monthly paycheck would be $9.30, and $9 of it would be for your rent. The Pullman workers went on strike, and the Pullman strike led to a national railroad strike, which only ended with government intervention. The strike would create some labor legends. It would also cause Congress and President Grover Cleveland to create Labor Day as a national holiday just to get the working people back on their side. Detroit and Chicago make the Teamsters what they are today, but Chicago gives us the Elevators Union, the Carpenters Union, SEIU, the Iron Workers Union, the Boilermakers Union, and the Operating Engineers Union. So if I said it once, I've probably said it a million times. Everything cool about America was either made in or made better by Chicago. So enjoy your Labor Day holiday and shout out my union, IBEW Local 15.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Spann Report podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Spann. This is episode number 344 of the report. And yo, man, we are back. We are back to the shits. We are back to the shenanigans. I think we done got all of the vacations and shit like that out of the way pretty much, man. I don't think I'm going to be going out of town anytime soon. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been out quite a bit, man. I've been out quite a bit. But yo, man, we are back. We are back to the grind. We are back to the shits. And it feels good. It feels good to be back on the mic, man. It's been a couple of weeks since I talked to y'all, so we got some catching up to do. And we're going to do all of that. But, of course, before I do all of that, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with us over here at the Spann Report podcast and let your voice be heard. You can go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave us those voicemail messages, and, of course, those messages will get played here live on the show, responded to in kind. And if you're watching us here live on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and what's the other one? Twitch. Yeah, we're on Twitch too. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, and Twitch, you can chop it up with your man Spann as we do the show live here. Area code 313-288-0485. Also, hit us up with the emails here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Of course, you can go there and leave us an email. And, of course, we'll read those emails and reply to those emails here live on the show. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead and follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. And also, hit us up on our website at www.thespannreport.com. You can go there. You can watch replays of the show. You can vote in the polls when we decide to put those polls up. You can donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And we really do appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. Also, our Patreon patrons. Our Patreon patrons are the ones who allow for us to do this show here live in the way in which we do. They are the ones who are allowing y'all to watch your man Spann do this thing here, right? So shout out to our Patreon patrons. They are the Golden Circle of the Spann Report Podcast. And if you want to become a Patreon patron and part of the Golden Circle, man, you can go hit up our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/the Spann Report. And you can become a Patreon patron and help us continue to do this in the ways in which we do this, right? Real talk. We really appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. Also, one way to put down for this show that don't cost you any bread at all is to give us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get read here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who does that. It doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network, man. Real talk. And yo, man, like I said, that was my man Dilla. That was my man Dilla. One of my homies from high school, man. We used to be on the ball squad and everything, man. Went to Olive Harvey Middle College together, man. That's one of my brothers. I love that dude. And one of the reasons why you didn't see your man Spann on the mic last week was because I was in Chicago celebrating not only Dilla but his wife's 6th wedding anniversary, and they did a vow renewal ceremony, and we went to Chicago for that. It was a good time. Trust and believe, it was a good time, man. Yo, I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. My boy is lit. Like I know he does the he does the like the TikTok thing and the Chicago historian thing, and I'm so proud of him for like all of the opportunities that are coming his way because of that. But let me trust and believe, I know my man's is lit. And the wedding was a lit affair, man. It was a lit affair to say, if I may say so myself, man. We had a good time, man. I swear to God, I actually had to pull back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like I was drinking, like, you know, I had a few doubles of some Grand Marnier, but that was about it, man. I had to pull back. You know, they had, so my man, he's a Q, and they had the Q oil in the parking lot, and it was lit in there. Like they was stepping, they was chanting. Like, it was a whole thing, man. It was a whole thing. But yo, man, real talk. Shout out to my man Dilla. And also for those of you who are celebrating Labor Day, man, that was a really apropos TikTok that he put out for Labor Day. You know, it's especially for someone like myself who's a union member, who is you know, pretty much benefiting from the fight of the labor movement. And a lot of us are benefiting from the fight of the labor movement, man, especially unions in particular. I feel like that TikTok was apropos, and it made sense for us to use it today because we all got the day off of work today because of the fights that were being led by the union and the labor movement. So, yo, man, real talk. Shout out to my man Dilla. Shout out to y'all, man. But yo, man, we got some things we need to talk about, man. It's been, like I said, it's been a couple weeks since the last time I talked to y'all. And there's been some things that are happening, not only just in the news, but in social media, pop culture, politics, and the whole shit. And y'all know your man Spann is gonna speak to him, so I'm gonna just do my thing here as I normally do. But of course, before I do, I have a few random thoughts for y'all, man. These are some things that I've been thinking about over the course of the last couple of weeks. You may have seen these already if you follow me on Facebook or on Twitter or something like that. I might have already posted these, but you know what? I'm thinking about this, and I feel like I need to share this with y'all because sometimes y'all, I wonder if I can't be the only one who thinks this shit, right? So, you know, I feel like I should share these with y'all, right? So here we go, man. Let me get my shit set up, right? All right, now the first random thought that I have is it's something that I've been noticing lately when it comes to how people respond to things on social media, right? Have you ever noticed that whenever someone dislikes something, that's when it becomes an agenda? You know what I mean? So, like, you know, say for instance, if Lil Nas X is, you know, being Lil Nas X, then suddenly it becomes Lil Nas X is a pawn in the gay agenda. Or if, you know, we start talking about Black Lives Matter and we want the police to stop shooting us, it becomes a part of the black supremacy agenda. It's like, suddenly everything that you don't like, everything that you don't like somehow becomes a part of a quote unquote agenda when you don't like something. Now, if you're promoting any sort of equality in any sort of way, it's always an agenda. It's all these things that we don't like, they become a part of an agenda. And I've always noticed like how we use language and stuff like that. Like, it's become a thing where, like, the agenda, like, we say agenda as if the thing is nefarious, as if it has, like, evil intent or evil intentions and things like that. But, like, I've been paying attention to how people use these words in, like, agenda. Anytime someone says they have an agenda, it's almost as if agenda is a negative thing. Like, an agenda can be very positive, you know what I'm saying? But the way in which we use agenda nowadays just seems to me like, yo, man, we always kind of like talk about agenda when it's something that we don't like. So that was something I was thinking about, man, real talk. Another thing I was just kind of thinking about, man. I was thinking about my mom, you know, a few weeks ago. And it was something I remember, like, my mother used to do this thing, right? Like, my mother used, like, I remember she used to do this thing where, like, she used to call out to me, right? And it would be like, we had this house, like she would be upstairs and I would probably be downstairs in the middle of like a really intense like Tecmo Bowl game or some shit like that. I might be playing Tecmo NBA basketball or some shit like that. And my mother would call out to me. And like, I remember like just responding to her like, huh? But she would just call my name, just like, Antoine. I'm like, huh? And she wouldn't say shit. And that used to irk the fuck out of me, right? So I would say this though. It used to irk me when I got older. So like when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old, that's when it really started grating on me. I'm like, come on, man, say what do you want, right? Like as a teenager, this is when you start feeling yourself. And so like she would call my name but wouldn't say anything. Even when I would respond like, huh? Yeah? Wouldn't say shit. And like I used to get like what's that, like I used to get at least 3 tries. I used to get like 3 cracks at that before she would cuss my ass out, right? So I asked this question on Facebook a couple weeks, I want to say it was like a couple weeks ago, but I asked this question like, how many times did you get to respond to your moms with before she cussed your ass out for not coming to see what the fuck it is she wanted, right? Because like, if you grew up with a black parent, you know what I'm saying, like oftentimes we you know, we got these universal ways in which our parents used to parent us. It's real crazy how they used to happen, right? Like we all got these sayings and shit that our parents used to say to us and whatever else, but like there was this one thing that like, you know, they would call out to you and they were expecting you to come when they called out to you, not respond with a or yeah or none of that shit. Like, nah, come see what the fuck it is I want. And it might not even be nothing like, hey, just change the channel on the television. You know, you was a human remote control or some shit, or go downstairs and give me a drink of water. You know, I want some water. Go ahead, put me some ice in the glass and bring some water back here. And don't you ever talk about some when I call your name. You come see what the fuck it is I want. You know. I don't know why my mama got like a deep ass voice and shit, but you know what I mean. Like that was a thing, man. That was a thing, and I was kind of miss out. Like I know what it is. I was missing that. I've been missing that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it is. Like my mother, I haven't talked to my mother in over 20 years, and I think that's what it was. I think I've been missing that. But yeah, how many times did your mother call out to you before like they finally cussed your ass out for not coming to see what they want? That was another like a little question I had. And y'all, you know, welcome to like email a nigga or something about that. You know. Another little random thought that I had was, you know, I've been noticing on social media, like, I don't know if all these people are suddenly Bloods or not, right? Like Bloods are nationwide now. Like I'm old enough to remember when like Bloods was a quintessential California thing, and now Bloods are all over the place. You find them Bloods in New York and Detroit and Chicago and Miami, and they all over the fucking place, right? Bloods are all over the place. And much the same way that like GDs and shit kind of went all over the place. Like folks was all over the place, and I'm wondering though, like, so I know the Bloods have this thing where they kind of substitute their B, like they kind of substitute words that start with a C with a B and shit. You know what I'm saying? So instead of saying cookies, they'll say bookies or some shit. And bookies mean something entirely different than cookies, but you know, whatever, right? That's what they do, right? But I kind of wonder, like, for those of you who grew up in Blood neighborhoods and you kind of acclimated to the idea of, you know, replacing the C's with the B's and shit, when you got into like, you know, the work environment, were you still doing that shit? You know, like, were you one of those people who like, you know, we well, you know, Bob, we sent out the bond tracks to these people, and it's brazy how like long it's taking them to fill out these bond tracks, man. And I'm wondering if we should consider whether or not we should have someone else sign for these things. You know, like I really think it's brazy how long we're waiting for them to sign these bond checks. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of wondered if that's a thing that y'all still do and shit, you know. Yeah. But yo, that's a bit my random thoughts. Time for us to get into the news, yo. All right, our first story in the news actually has to do. Oh shit! Hold on a second. We've got breaking news here, and our first story here on the Spann Report. This is episode 344. Has to do with the death of one Michael K. Williams. For those of you who are familiar with Michael K. Williams, or who may not be familiar with Michael K. Williams, he was the character in The Wire that played Omar. It's his most iconic role, the role he is most known for. They say the police found him in his apartment today, deceased. So we're going to read this story here. This comes out of ABC 7 in New York. I want to see if there's a video attached to this. There is video attached to this, so I'm going to pull this video up so you guys can watch here right on with your man Spann, and we can learn about this shit here together. Hold on a second while I pull this up. Okay, let's do this here. Whoa. Okay, share screen. All right. And all right. So, yeah, here we go. Let me turn this up. Make sure y'all can hear it.
Been following tonight the death of actor Michael K. Williams. He was found dead inside his apartment in Brooklyn. And Eyewitness News reporter Lucy Yang is live outside his apartment in Williamsburg now with more. Lucy.
Well, David, family, friends, co-stars, and fans are reeling from the death of Michael Kenneth Williams today. We're in Williamsburg, in a luxury condo where officials confirm the 54-year-old actor was found inside his penthouse apartment by a nephew around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Officials report there was drug paraphernalia around his body. The ME is on site right now and will determine if this was a drug overdose. His body has not yet been removed from his apartment. The Brooklyn-born actor grew up in NYCHA housing in East Flatbush. He went on to win critical acclaim for his many roles, including for his portrayal of Omar Little in the HBO hit series The Wire, a gritty show set in the drug-dealing underworld of New York City. It may have been a little too close to reality if drugs did play a role in the actor's death. HBO just a few minutes ago released a statement mourning the loss of their HBO family member of more than 20 years. Michael K. Williams was 54 years old.
All right. So, yeah, man. Yeah, I didn't believe that.
Switching gears, we now bring you a story of friendship.
Let me turn that off. But yeah, I didn't believe that when I first saw it on Instagram. Shout out to my man Cliff, my co-host on Beer and Chicken. He posted it on Instagram, and I swear to God, I didn't believe it when I first saw it. I know the news is still fresh and it's still new for a lot of folks. One of the things that as we get older, we start to notice things like this. You start to notice the people around you passing away, some of the things that you grew up with no longer being there, the things that you took joy in no longer being there. Michael K. Williams was one of those things for a lot of folks. Many of us watched him not only in just The Wire, but he had a really great performance in Lovecraft Country very recently on HBO. Many of us watched him on Boardwalk something. I'm forgetting the name of that show. I'm sorry, but yeah, man, like you just started noticing, like it seems as though the older you get, like the I don't know if it's because we're getting older, because I'm 41 years old, but I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or because of the everything that's happening around us, especially with the pandemic and COVID-19 and everything else. But you start noticing people checking out, man. Like their clocks are being punched to the afterlife in a much more accelerated rate. And one of the things that they talked about was, there was drug paraphernalia found around his body. Now I know he did speak to on a previous interview. I want to say it was about 6 months ago, where he spoke about having battled his own addiction to illicit drugs and things like that. And you hate that so many of our great artists are, that we're losing them in that way, right? I remember when we found out that Michael Jackson passed away, and you find out that it was because of a drug overdose, and we find out that Prince had passed away, and you find out that it might have been from an overdose of painkillers. Like, all of these great artists are being taken away from us, and way too soon. You know, he was only 54 years old. He wasn't an old man in the ways in which we think of old men. But yeah, man, it's kind of crazy that you know, we lose a talent as great as he was. It's like, and like I said, we've been losing a lot of folks lately, man. I think to Chadwick Boseman, I think it's been a year, a little bit over a year now since we lost Chadwick Boseman. And so you think about these sort of things, especially as you age up. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm 41 years old, and I'm much more acute and much more aware of my mortality now. And yeah, man, to hear that Michael K. Williams has passed on, man, not only is it a shock, but it's also one of those things that you're not necessarily really prepared for and ready for, especially as a fan of his work. It's just a sad situation all around. I know there's very scant amount of details as it stands right now, because this is only like a couple hours old. Like, this news is only a couple hours old, so I'm sure more details will come out over the course of the next weekend, so we may touch on it next week. But yo, man, it's sad to hear that Michael K. Williams has passed on at the age of 54, man. Prayers up for his family. And yeah, man, real tragic story. Michael K. Williams dead at 54, man. Another story that we have here in the news has to do with one Joe Rogan. All right, so Joe Rogan has said that he's tested positive for COVID-19. Well, I'm sorry, that first of all, Joe Rogan tested positive first for COVID-19. All right, now we know Joe Rogan, the podcaster, the UFC announcer, the comedian. Although I've never really seen him do anything, like comedy wise, but like comedian, he's got a lot of titles. He has a $100 million deal with Spotify to do the Joe Rogan Experience on their platform exclusively. He tested positive for COVID-19. All right. Now we know that Joe Rogan has been one of those folks who has been kind of dismissive about the mitigation efforts that have been going out about COVID-19. Especially when it concerns the vaccine. He's talked about, younger people who are in great physical condition, maybe not needing to take the vaccine. Well, not only did he test positive for COVID-19, but he said that he was treating it with like ivermectin, which is a horse, like livestock dewormer, and some other, like, I think he said he had like monoclonal antibodies and things like that. Well, right now, Joe Rogan is saying that he has now tested negative for COVID-19.
Well, that'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
So we get the story here. This comes from NXSTV.com. I've never heard of this outlet, but we get the story here from them. I guess it's nextstar.com. It says comedian and podcast host Joe Rogan said he tested negative for COVID-19 after announcing only days before that he had contracted the virus. Tested negative today, he wrote on Instagram, alongside a photo of what appeared to be his negative results. Thanks for all the kind wishes. Rogan, also a UFC commentator, had made headlines earlier this week when he revealed he began experiencing possible symptoms of COVID-19 after returning from the road several days before. He said he eventually learned he contracted the virus, at which point he began taking all kinds of meds, including ivermectin, a livestock dewormer that the FDA has found to be ineffective against COVID-19 and dangerous when used for that purpose in humans. Rogan added that he also had been treated with monoclonal antibiotics, prednisone, and both NAD intravenous drip and a vitamin drip. He did not reveal whether he had been previously vaccinated against COVID-19. Instagram also included a caption in his initial post warning users of the dangers associated with unapproved COVID-19 treatments. Now, I'm going to just say this, right? When they say he had not necessarily revealed whether or not he had been vaccinated against COVID-19, I'm predisposed to believe that he probably hadn't been, because here's the thing, and I think I've said this on the show before. those of us who have been vaccinated have no problem telling folks that we've been vaccinated. It's not a secret, man. We're not necessarily, we're not holding it back. We don't feel like we have to, like, keep this a secret whether or not we've been vaccinated or not. We feel like, yo, man, I've been vaccinated. Here's my card. We don't care that anybody knows that we've been vaccinated. The vast majority of people who have been unvaccinated, though, are very cagey about whether or not they're going to reveal their vaccination status. So I'm with that sort of information available to us, I'm inclined to believe that maybe he was not. Maybe he was not vaccinated against COVID-19. However, the thing is that they said he had. Let's see. Let's go back to this article. It said that he had been given a vitamin drip. He had monoclonal antibodies, antibiotics, prednisone, and both an NAD intravenous drip and a vitamin drip. Okay, so y'all know your man Spann here is a very big proponent of the COVID-19 vaccine. I've been fully vaccinated since April of this year. I have been a very big proponent for people to go ahead and get that vaccine because it's the simplest and easiest way for us to kind of fight against this I'm stuttering and shit. For us to fight against this pandemic that we are in constant right now, right? And I say that to say that the vaccine is free, right? The vaccine is free. You get 2 shots. One, you get your first shot, and then 3 weeks later, you go back for your second shot. They're entirely free right now. Go and get your 2 shots. If you get, either the Pfizer or the Moderna. If you take Johnson & Johnson, it's the 1-shot deal. However, I would suggest you go either get the Pfizer or the Moderna. I'm not a medical expert. I'm just saying those are the ones who seem to have the most effective efficacy against the coronavirus and the COVID-19, right? So he hasn't said whether or not he has been vaccinated. I'm inclined to believe that he hasn't been vaccinated. But also, all of these other treatments, he said ivermectin, prednisone, monoclonal antibodies, all these other things, right? Y'all know that shit costs money. Everything that y'all, like I just named, that he had thrown against his COVID-19 diagnosis, all of those things cost money. Money that a lot of folks don't have to treat said COVID-19 infection, right? All of those things. Now, this is also something that this is money that you have to spend after you contract COVID-19. Now, we've already gone over the statistical evidence as to whether or not vaccinated, how big the number is when it concerns vaccinated folks against unvaccinated folks when it comes to COVID-19 and everything else. We've seen those numbers, right? I'm willing to bet that a lot of you or a lot of folks don't have access to the level of medical care that a Joe Rogan has, because again, didn't I just say this man has access? He did a $100 million deal with Spotify. This is the thing that folks aren't telling y'all when they get to telling you, well, you don't need to take the vaccine. You can get this, and you can get this, and you can get this. Yeah, all that shit costs money. Money that not only one that you probably don't have, but then two, your insurance company probably won't want to pay for all the way, because as we talked about the last time I was on the mic, these insurance companies are like, yo, did you get vaccinated? No? Oh, so these costs are yours. We ain't about to write this shit off no more. We tired of paying for this shit. Y'all about to eat some of these costs. So the monoclonal antibodies, the NAD, vitamin drip and all this other shit, the ivermectin that isn't even fucking FDA approved. And it's funny y'all were talking about how y'all wouldn't take the vaccine because it wasn't FDA approved, and y'all are taking livestock medication. Some of these people are taking livestock medication to treat COVID-19 when it's not even shown to even be effective against this disease. Now, here's the other part about this that I think is very, very important for us to take heed to, is the fact that Joe Rogan has millions of listeners, right? And there is a segment of the population who, rather than listen to the statistical evidence of not only the statistical evidence, but the evidence stated by the medical professionals, rather than listen to that, they are more prone to listen to an anecdotal story from one person without the study behind them. Like, well, shit, Joe Rogan took the ivermectin. Well, goddamn it, I'm going down to PetSmart right now, and I'm going to get the ivermectin for my goddamn self. I'm taking the ivermectin. PetSmart be damned. I don't give a damn. I'm going to take the ivermectin. All right. So yeah, man, it's just kind of weird that that this is what's going on now. He's tested negative and everything else. But the other part about this, like, how is this any easier than just taking the vaccine though? Right? Like, you got to go to, like, PetSmart or your livestock sort of what's that, like a livestock sort of place or whatever, where they selling like supplies for farmers and shit like that. You got to go to this place to go get this ivermectin or whatever else, and then you got to try to figure out, okay, so how I'm gonna get the monoclonal antibodies and all this. So you got to go through all this shit rather than just take the goddamn vaccine, which is 2 shots and it's free and it don't cost you a goddamn thing. I don't really get the logic behind that. It seemed to me like the easiest way to get kind of like mitigate your circumstances is just go ahead and get vaccinated. But that's just me. But that's in the news. Another story that we got here in the news regarding this COVID-19 shit is here in Michigan. There is an embattled state representative, a fellow by the name of Jewel Jones, and Jewel Jones is let's just say he's a colorful character. I'll just say that he's a colorful character. And right now, Jewel Jones is using his position as a state legislator to give out a exemption letter for those who choose and don't want to get vaccinated.
And I'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
All right, so we get this story here. This comes out of fox2detroit.com. Let me pull up this video so you guys can watch right along with your man Spann. Hold on a second while I do this here. Here we go. Let's do that. And wait, did it come up? No, it didn't come up. Reload that. Okay, yeah. I don't know what the hell was going on with that. But okay, we got to reload it. Here we go. Check this out, you guys. Let me do this.
I'm not saying, hey, we don't need to get the vaccination or anything, but choice is important.
I caught up with 26-year-old State Representative Jewel Jones, painting his uncle's house in Detroit. But also, he was posting this on social media, saying that if anybody needs a letter from him to get an exemption for the vaccination for work or school, let him know.
I know it's still a lot of people out there who are hesitant about the vaccine and who just are flat right out not getting it. And so I want to make sure that they can still continue their studies or continue their careers.
But he admits that a letter will not automatically get a vaccine exemption.
I'm standing there with you if this is the choice you want to make and you just need a little, extra oomph, getting over that.
And your letter is that extra oomph.
Possible.
But there's criticism. Some people say you, being a state rep,
right,
shouldn't almost advertise that the vaccine is no good because there's a difference of opinion. What do you say to those people?
I would say that I'm not advertising whether or not the vaccine is good or not. This is simply about choice. If someone wants to make the decision to get the vaccine, I will definitely help them get to it.
So, yes, this is the same Jewel Jones that is currently fighting drunk driving and assault charges.
When I call Gretchen?
You obviously know the governor. I know, but seriously, the governor is pushing vaccine, and it seems like you're not. I mean, are you differ on that with her?
I have no difference. I support our governor. I think Governor Whitmer is an excellent governor. I'm standing beside her. But in terms of choice, I think that we have to make sure that we're not forcing people.
Now, the mayor of Westland said that...
Again, when they start talking about this, forcing people to do shit, you're not forced to do nothing, right? You can make a decision as to whether or not you choose a different school, whether or not you choose a different level of occupation or a place of occupation. These places of these places of education, these places of commerce have a choice that they want to make. You can choose to move around, right? Like there's certain places, like if there's a place that you don't necessarily like their political stance on a certain thing, you can choose whether or not you want to continue to patronize that place or not, right? Those are choices. When that place decides that, like, our employees, if I want to mitigate my liability if any of these people end up sick, right? Yeah, that's ultimately what this is about. It's not about whether or not these places of employment or these places of education really care about you physically and mentally and all these other things. It's about their liability. So when these places decided, like, yo, the FDA has approved this vaccination. In order to work here, in order to study here, you need to get said vaccination. You need to go ahead and get said vaccination or find someplace else that will accept you like that. These penny ante ass moves about, like, yo, well, it's about their choice. Like, understand that their choice isn't necessarily just about them, right? This is a highly contagious, deadly, potentially deadly disease depending on who catches it, right? Nobody wants to take responsibility for someone else getting sick because they were in contact with you, right? Nobody wants to take responsibility for that. All y'all are thinking about is your goddamn selves. So if somebody comes in contact with you and they contracted the disease because of you, you therefore are like responsible possibly for somebody else dying because you chose not to take said vaccine or social distance or whatever else. And I feel as though this state rep putting his like position in front of, you know, like, well, say I can give you this as this exemption letter, much like how churches are now trying to give out exemption letters for religious exemptions and all this other shit. I can give you this exemption letter, and then you ain't got to get the vaccine, and you can go back out to work and all this other shit. Like, no, this is a public health issue. It's not just about you. Get over your fucking selves. This ain't just about you. And it kind of harkens back to like earlier on in the pandemic when folks found out that, like, when they started telling us to wear masks, that it wasn't so much about protecting them from COVID-19. It was about protecting other people from COVID-19. And when they found out that it was about protecting other people, that's when a whole lot of other folks, that's when folks started acting as though, like, yo, the whole mask thing was overblown. Like, man, why the fuck do I gotta wear a mask? I don't even have the shit, man. I don't have the shit. I don't have the fucking COVID-19, man. Why the fuck do I have to wear a mask, man? I'm going fishing. I'm trying to just go fishing. When I go into the office, man, I don't give a damn. I don't even have it. And they don't care that they could possibly be, you know, like, shit, passing it on to somebody else because they probably haven't been tested and everything else. So this is a very selfish act to try to get a religious exemption or a political exemption from getting the COVID-19 vaccine, and then you don't want to social distance, and then you don't want to wear the mask. It's like all of the things that we are trying to do in order to mitigate and to stamp down the proliferation of this pandemic. Niggas act like they don't want to be a part of it. They act like they don't want to, like, take part in, like, bringing this shit to heel, so to speak. And so, yeah, man, I just kind of feel like Joel Jones using his position in this way is a, you know, outside of the fact that this nigga is, like, you know, on some, he's already been, like, caught drunk driving, using the governor's name, like, name dropping and all this other shit. I feel like it's just what is it? What is it? What are the words that I'm looking for? I feel as though it is an abuse of his authority. I feel as though it's an abuse of his authority, and he really shouldn't be out here operating like this.
While we respect this is an issue of personal choice in Westland, we have been and are continuing to encourage residents to get vaccinated. And the mayor of Inkster said this: I also respect people's choice not to get vaccinated. However, I believe that vaccines are a good way to help the entire community beat COVID. How many letters have you written?
You know, that's another personal question.
Okay, well, he won't give an exact number. He did say that if people want his assistance, check him out on social media. In Detroit, Charlie Langton, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, man, that's some bullshit. Let's just keep it a buck. That's some bullshit. But yo, man, that's in the news. Another story that we got here in the news has to do with the fact that you know, as we talk more and more about this COVID-19.
Hey, Hero, I'll tell you what, I'm actually having fun over here too.
Let me stop that. But no, another story that we got here in the news is 4 conservative radio hosts badged vaccines earlier on this year. Tripped out part about that is all 4 of them are dead today. Yeah, man. So we get this story here. This comes out of the Washington Post. And it says 4 conservative radio talk show hosts badged coronavirus vaccines. Then they got sick. It says Mark Bernier was adamant that he wasn't going to get the coronavirus vaccination. I'm Mr. Anti-Vax, he told listeners of his talk radio program in Daytona Beach, Florida, after the federal government provisionally approved the first vaccines in December. He later declared that the government was acting like Nazis and urging people to get vaccinated. But in early August, NDB, Bernier's home radio home for more than 30 years, announced that the 65-year-old host was being treated in the hospital for COVID-19. On Saturday, the station said that Bernier had died. Bernier was at least the fourth talk radio show host who had espoused anti-vaccine and anti-mask sentiments to succumb to the virus in August. There was also Phil Valentine, 61, a popular host in Tennessee. Jimmy DeYoung, 81, a nationally syndicated Christian preacher who also based in Tennessee, and Dick Farrell, 65, who had worked for stations in Miami and Palm Beach, Florida, as well as the conservative Newsmax TV channel. All four men had publicly couched their opposition to mainstream public health efforts in the typically hyperbolic and sometimes paranoid rhetoric of conservative talk radio. Farrell, for example, called coronavirus mitigation efforts a scamdemic and described the government's top infectious disease expert, Anthony Fauci, as a power-tripping lying freak. At one point earlier this year, DeYoung, host of the Prophecy Today program, asked the guests whether the vaccine rollout could be another form of government control of the people. Valentine's sentiments took the form of a song parody, a format that had also been the favorite of the late radio titan Rush Limbaugh. Valentine's tune was called Vax Man, based on the Beatles' Tax Man. Okay, whatever. Valentine released a song in June. He died on August 21st, according to a station, WTN, in Nashville. To some observers and critics, the host desk highlights talk radio's often overlooked role as a vector of vaccine resistance and coronavirus misinformation. While several nationally syndicated hosts such as Hugh Hewitt and Ben Shapiro have spoken out to advocate for the vaccines, hosts of hundreds of local stations have offered messages similar to those of Valentine, Farrell, and Bernier. The vaccine isn't the problem, talk radio is, said Jerry Del Colano, a professor at New York University and publisher and editor of the Inside Music Media, which covers the radio industry. Radio companies, he said, are risking the health of their audience even as anti-vaxxer bloviators continue to die. So here's the thing, right? It's your choice. I want to be very consistent here. It is your choice whether or not you get vaccinated or not, right? I get that. I know folks like to say, well, I respect that it's their choice. This, that, no. I don't necessarily respect it. I just understand it is your choice. I don't respect it. And the reason why I don't necessarily respect it is because I understand that this isn't a choice that happens in a vacuum. This isn't a choice that affects just you. This is a choice that affects everybody around you. This is a choice that affects everyone who comes in contact with you. This is a choice that could result in somebody other than yourself dying, right? So you get these folks who go out on these airwaves, man, who have millions of listeners, thousands of listeners, and they get out on these airwaves and they talk this shit, and then like they're doing all of it because, you know, it's politically expedient. Let's keep this a buck. A lot of this is political posturing. A public health pandemic, a public health issue shouldn't be political in any sense of the word, right? We should, like, when was the last time you go to your doctor and be like, yo, man, so you want to give me the vaccine? Like, what the fuck, man? Are you a fucking liberal, or what the hell is this, man? You want to vaccinate me? When the hell have you been doing this? You know, never mind the fact that, like, doctors have been vaccinating people against sicknesses for a long time now. But we've become so politicized in this nation, and because the internet and the way the internet works, that we have so much access to the information that confirms our preconceived notions, right? That we can kind of seek out information that already confirms what we believe. And I know some of you may be listening to me and be like, yo, man, Spann, aren't you really doing the same thing? Like, seems to me like, you know, if you really wanted to listen to the alternative side of this, then you would listen to InfoWars, and then you would go on Newsmax, and you would listen to like the Blaze and stuff like that. And the truth of the matter is that probably if I knew that they weren't trafficking in misinformation, and I've known them to do that, like that's the thing where like you have to really be discerning about where you get your information from. You have to really be discerning about that. So like just going on Facebook and finding an article and reading the headline of an article that agrees with your preconceived notions or whatever the fuck the topic is, and then just sharing that, never reading the article at all for yourself, but just sharing it because you agree with the headline. And that's the other part about this that I think not enough of us are talking about, is that so many of us read the headline, never read the article at all, and then we just go with that, and we're ready to go with a response as soon as that article hits our timelines, man, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Facebook or whatever else. We see the headlines and we ready to go with our talking points, right? And so that's what kind of like, I've kind of pulled back a little bit. On going back and forth. I don't do the back and forth anymore as far as like talking with people about the vaccinations and the COVID-19 and shit, because I know there's, for one, you're not going to convince anybody on social media of anything, man. You're just not. You know, people come to these discussions, they come ready to, like, they got their talking points ready, they got their preconceived notions ready. They're not listening to anything you have to say. What they're doing is they're reading your response. They're not even necessarily reading everything that you said. They're reading and they're ready for a response. They're looking for the hole in your argument. They're not necessarily listening to you. They're not necessarily reading you. They're looking for the hole in your argument. They will attack that one thing that they disagree with you in that argument, no matter how long your paragraph is, right? Because if you put a couple paragraphs there, ain't nobody reading all that shit. They'll tell you, nigga, you thought I was about to read all that shit? Nigga, I ain't reading all that shit. Like, our attention spans are like that. We don't like reading anymore. We just don't, right? So, the fact that you got conservative radio hosts dropping like flies, right? Conservative radio hosts out here talking about they're not taking the vaccine. They're talking about the mask being, the government treating them like is like Nazi Germany and shit. And here's the other part about this is that when you start listening to some of these conservative, wealthy white folks talking about Nazi Germany and all, this is how you know they ain't got no fucking real problems. This is how you know they ain't got no problems, bruh. Like, think about this. Like, if wearing a piece of cloth around your face when you go to Target, if that's the biggest motherfucking inconvenience in your life, man, you've been living a hell of a life. Life has been immensely good for you, right? Like, think about that for a second. These folks are out here at school board meetings, like, going off, talking about something. This is like, you're putting a muzzle on my child. Like, no, bitch, I'm just putting a fucking mask on the kid so he don't spread disease. Like, what are you talking about? Right? And so, like, we talk so much. Here's the thing. It's the old adage of, and I don't even want to say that, because it ain't even that. It's just like people feeling as though their own personal freedom supersedes our freedoms to fucking survive. That's really what it's about. Your personal freedoms supersede my freedom to live in this motherfucker without getting sick because of your ass. That's what this is about. We've perverted the idea of freedom. Now, suddenly freedom, the way that these people talk about freedom isn't necessarily really freedom, it's really anarchy. Because if we apply these principles to everything else in life, why the fuck do we follow rules at all? We follow rules in everything else, but suddenly this is where we draw the line. Like, God damn it, a mask? Are you fucking crazy? A vaccine? Are you fucking crazy? This Nazism. Right? Like, misinformation and disinformation are so prevalent on social media now. Like, before you used to be able to, like, just use social media to kind of connect with folks, see the people from high school that you used to hate and shit, and, like, see how they living and shit now, you know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, man, that motherfucker, damn, she still look good. Goddamn. Fuck, I was kind of hoping. You got motherfuckers like that. But then also, it became this thing of, you got your information from social media, and the news some of these news outlets jumped on social media, and some of these propaganda outfits jumped on social media. And now, we've been able to, with the way that social media works, is that you've been able to kind of put yourself in a bubble of the people who agree with you, of the news outlets that you agree with, and like all of the objective outlets folks have tended to like kind of like steer away from, because those objective outlets can sometimes challenge the ways in which you think about shit. So yeah, man, the fact that like 4 of these dudes have died since, after like having such anti-views against masks, against social distancing, against vaccinations and shit. Like, the sad part about this is the people who listen to them aren't going to look at this as like a cautionary tale. They're going to look at this as like, yo, man, he died for what he believed in. This is a martyr now, right? He died for what he believed. He owned the libs to the end. Because ultimately, like, that's what it ends up being for a lot of these folks. So, yo, man, 4 of them so far. 4 major right-wing conservative radio hosts have died from COVID-19 after after just denigrating masks, after denigrating social distancing, after denigrating getting vaccinated, man. So that's in the news. Another story that we got here in the news has to do with the fact that as we talk about misinformation and shit, that a new study shows that misinformation on Facebook gets way more engagement than actual fucking news.
Well, that'll be a monkey's bare-assed uncle.
Yeah, man. So we get this story here. This comes out of TheVerge.com. It says a new peer-reviewed study from researchers at New York University and the Université. I'm sorry. This is a French establishment. I didn't take French. Université Grenoble-Alpes in France will show that misinformation got 6 times as much engagement on Facebook as real news, the Washington Post reports. The study looked at posts from the Facebook pages of more than 2,500 news publishers between August 2020 and January 2021. Researchers found that the pages that post more misinformation regularly got more likes, shares, and comments. This increased engagement was seen across the political spectrum, but the study found that publishers on the right have a much higher propensity to share misleading information than publishers in any other political categories, according to the Washington Post. The researchers will share the study as part of the 2021 Internet Measurement Conference in November, but it could be released prior to that, researcher Laura Edelson tells The Verge. A Facebook spokesperson pointed out to the Post that the study only looks at engagement and not reach, which is the term the company uses to describe how many people see the piece of content on Facebook, regardless of whether or not they interact with it. Facebook does not make reach data available. How fucking convenient is that? How convenient is that? So the reason why said study doesn't show the amount of reach that these posts get is because Facebook is already blocking the information that would allow these researchers to find out how far the reach of this misinformation goes. What the fuck? What the fuck? It says, but in August, Facebook cut off its group of I'm sorry, I didn't skip. Instead, they and others who want to understand and quantify the social media platform's misinformation problem, including these researchers, have often turned to a tool called CrowdTangle, which is also owned by Facebook. So let's get this straight. You've got people who are researching the reach of the actual news and the misinformation, and it's been already shown from the information that the Facebook has allowed for them to have, that the misinformation gets a lot more engagement, gets a lot more shares, gets a lot more likes and things like that. But Facebook also won't allow these same researchers to figure out how far these articles and these posts go out to the vast public, because why exactly? All right. Like, Facebook has been a vector for a lot of misinformation. They come under a heavy scrutiny from the government and everything else, and yet they still are kind of pigeonholing the ways in which researchers are able to kind of like study this shit and show exactly the vast influence of how how misinformation spread on Facebook reaches everyone else, and how that becomes a part of the lexicon, how that becomes a part of our daily parlance. I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to people that I know on a regular basis, where they're like kind of regurgitating some really discredited shit, and they got it from Facebook. All right, they got it from Facebook, but still. Facebook is blocking the researchers from actually being able to see how far that information goes. But in August, Facebook cut off this group of researchers access to this data, as well as to the library of political ads on the platform. Facebook said that continuing to give third-party researchers access to the data could violate a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission that it entered into following the Cambridge Analytica scandal, a claim the FTC said was inaccurate. So Facebook out here lying like a motherfucker. Facebook out here lying like shit. Like, yo, man, so we got this agreement, you know what I'm saying, with the FTC, and, you know, we don't want to come in violation with that. And the FTC like, man, bitch, I don't know what the fuck you talking about. Go ahead, let them get that. Let them get that. What the fuck you talking about? Go ahead, let them get that information. We need to know this shit too. Shit, we curious in the motherfucker too, goddammit. Go ahead, let that shit out. It says CrowdTangle is the tool that the New York Times tech columnist Kevin Roose used to make regular lists of posts that got the most engagement on Facebook, a practice that reportedly riled up top employees inside the company because the lists were regularly dominated by right-wing pages that post a lot of misinformation. So, yo, man, I'm gonna just say this, dude. A lot of your friends are, a lot of us, I'm not gonna say a lot of your friends, but a lot of us are susceptible to low quality information. And as I said previously, there's a lot of folks who will see a headline, they will share the shit based off the headline alone, never bother to read the article. They're just ready to go with the talking points. They're just ready to go with their preconceived ideas and notions about the topic at hand. And that's all they care about. They will not read the article. They don't give a fuck about the content of the article. The headline is the goal line, and they're ready to go on that. And so, yo, man, that's been the news. But y'all know what time it is.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? Did this nigga just say blue blazes?
All right. Our first story here on Blue Blazers has to do with one little Boosie. Boosie out here being in Blue Blazers all crazy and wild and shit. Well, the reason why little Boosie is in Blue Blazers is because little Boosie, I feel like little Boosie, somebody done broke little Boosie. I feel like little Boosie is broken. I feel like somebody like you know, if Lil Boosie was like Pinocchio or like a doll or something, somebody just like, you know, like took that motherfucker like crack, like he's broke. I think I feel like that's what's happened with Lil Boosie. And the reason why I say that is because Lil Boosie has this thing with Lil Nas X, man. I think Lil Boosie is obsessed with the person, the rapper, the entity that is Lil Nas X. And I just feel like the dude is broke, man. I feel like he's physically and mentally and philosophically broken. So Lil Nas X is, you know, he's got a new album coming out called Montero. And he chose a very creative way to announce that the album is coming soon. So he took some photos of him with a prosthetic belly as though he were a pregnant person. And you know, it was all over People magazine. It was all over Twitter. It was all over Facebook and Instagram. It was all over the fucking place. I saw this picture all over the goddamn place. Couldn't escape the picture even if I wanted to. All right? But Boosie took it upon himself, because Boosie seems to be on a crusade against, you know, the likes of Lil Nas X and everything. Took it upon himself to say that, you know, Lil Nas X looked like he might be, you know, ready to suck his background singer's dick on stage and shit. And I'm just like, yo.
Oh, yeah. There's powerful niggardry at work here.
Yeah, so we get this story here. This comes out of complex.com. They can explain this shit a hell of a lot better than your man Spann. We read the story, like I said, it comes out of Complex. It says, Boosie Badass's obsession with talking about Lil Nas X continued this week as the Baton Rouge rapper took to Twitter to share his more controversial comments about the Montero artist. Lil Nas X, what the fuck, you just don't stop, Boosie wrote. I think he's going to turn around and suck one of his background dancers' dick on national TV. But hashtag protect yours, hashtag God turning over in his grave. Now, I'm going to just say this right now, man. Yo, man, God got a grave? like, yo, man, like, oh no. Meanwhile, like... Now think about this for a second. For those of us who grew up in the Christian tradition, not even Jesus stayed in the grave, Boosie. Jesus got up after the third day. Like, graves don't hold God down. Man, what the fuck is you talking about? Even, that's the whole premise behind Easter, bruh. Jesus got up after the third day. They went up in there and they moved a stone. He wasn't there, bruh. And not only that, he revealed himself to his disciples. Like, yo, man, check me out, bruh. Like, hold on, man, check it out. Just so y'all know it's me. Look at it. Check it out. Look at that. The mark of the stigmata right there. Like, check it out. You see that? Look at my feet, dog. Look at my feet. It's me, bruh. It's me. Jesus revealed himself to his disciples. So why the hell are you talking about God turning over in his grave right now? Come on, man. Y'all even read that book? Do y'all even read the book y'all keep talking about? Come on, man. But anyway, it said Boosie's remarks arrived just a day after Lil Nas X pregnancy-themed photo shoot, which he shared on Instagram in celebration of the forthcoming release of his new album, Montero. Of course, it isn't the first time Boosie made homophobic comments about Lil Nas X. Last month, Boosie sat down with The Breakfast Club for an interview in which he defended his previous homophobic comments about the LGBTQ community. I just be feeling like sometimes I gotta speak up because as far as straight people in the world, you don't have any opinion. If you say something, I'm straight, I like women, it's vulgar. Said nobody. Anybody with a motherfucking brain on it, like a functioning brainstem, nobody has said that shit. He said, you can't brag on really smashing or your sexuality anymore. Boosie then elaborated on his views on Lil Nas X, sharing that his concern over X stripping on stage were for strong young black men. If you were trying to raise kids, would you be cool with sitting there and trying to watch Nas X go up there and take his clothes off? He asked Charlamagne before saying the host is part of the problem. Now, I'm gonna tell you this right now. We're talking about a dude who openly told folks that he paid for his 14-year-old son and his nephew to be serviced by a sex worker with fellatio when they were 14, right? Thereby promoting statutory rape with his own son and nephew. I'm gonna need y'all to like really feel like I really feel like y'all need to pick another fucking spokesperson than Lil Boosie. Right? I feel like y'all need to do that. The other part about this is that like I know a lot of y'all feel like Lil Boosie is y'all spokesperson, and you know Lil Boosie stays 10 toes down, man. Lil Boosie out here telling the real, man. He ain't changing up for nobody, man. Lil Boosie out here telling us what it really is, man. I respect that. I respect that because he got a lot to lose, man, by he's standing on his shit. I'm going to tell y'all this here right now, man. With Lil Nas X, a lot of y'all are revealing just how little you know about the world. A lot of y'all are revealing just how small-minded you are to the world. Here's the thing. I know there's like the picture, they were talking about the Cosby Show and the guys, be with the pregnant bellies and stuff and, trying to sympathize with what it was like to be pregnant and things like that, man. I'm not even going to talk about that, right? But what I am going to talk about is this, though. Like, I need y'all to stop using y'all kids as shields for why y'all are so ignorant. That's what I need. I'm going to need y'all to stop using your kids for why you are so ignorant. Because let's keep it a buck. Sometimes your kids are more knowledgeable about certain topics despite the fact that you're ignorant about them. Right? Sometimes your kids are more knowledgeable about certain topics because despite you being ignorant about said topics. Sometimes these kids learn things in school, right? That you have no idea about. Like not even that. It don't even have to be anything controversial. How many of y'all motherfuckers got mad when these kids was in school learning Common Core math and you had no clue how to do the shit, right? No clue how to do the shit. Some of these kids were actually able to learn through the Common Core math shit. But because you couldn't help your kid with the school, with the classwork, suddenly, when these kids learning the backwards ass way of learning how to do math, all you got to do is this, and all you got to do is this, and that's how I came with an answer. And Lord forbid there's a different way to do the shit than the other way. Like, Lord forbid that there's another way to learn some shit other than the way that you learn how to do the shit, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat. I say that to say that these kids learn how to, like, these kids don't learn how to hate shit, or better yet, they aren't born hating things. They learn how to hate things. And oftentimes the reason why they learn how to hate things is because their parents have taught them how to hate things. Right? Some of you have talked about, yo, I don't care if that Lil Nas X is gay. I don't care about homosexuality. I don't care if it's heterosexuality. Stop promoting sexuality to our kids, which is bullshit. And y'all know it's bullshit. Because y'all have a problem with gay people existing publicly, period. Every time you see a heteronormative relationship on television, you don't have anything to say about that. Every time I watched a man kiss a woman on TV, nobody had a goddamn thing to say. But suddenly, if you saw Lil Nas X kiss a man on an award show, suddenly, well, what about the goddamn kids? This is the generation that came up doing Tip Drill and BET Uncut. This is the generation that came up doing 2 Live Crew and Too Short and fucking Snoop Dogg. It ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Y'all, we were out here advocating for trains, bruh. Right? But suddenly, Lil Nas X is a little bit much for you. Right? Which is crazy to me. Lil Nas X he doing too much. He doing too much, man. This is all for attention, this and other. So why are you giving him said attention? Why are you giving him said attention? I've seen more people that don't like Lil Nas X share that photo of him being pregnant than actual fans of Lil Nas X sharing that same photo. Y'all hate watch Lil Nas X. Y'all don't like Lil Nas X, but y'all sure as shit can't wait to share the next thing that Lil Nas X is doing so that you could tell everybody how much you hate what the fuck it is that Lil Nas X is doing. Hate watching is still watching. Right? Lil Nas X is trolling the fuck out of y'all. And I'm kind of here for it because it allows for people to kind of understand where you are and where your intelligence lies. Because it's easy to tell that he's trolling. Right? This is a young man who had been told, as far as my understanding is concerned, this is a young man who had been told, being gay is wrong, being gay is something you shouldn't be, and you should be, you should probably want to kill yourself if you are gay, this and the other. A lot of gay folks tell y'all how they feel, how they were brought up, and that being gay is something that they were ostracized in many families for being, and yet and still, y'all, everybody says that they don't have a problem with him being gay, which is bullshit. Y'all do have a problem with him being gay, and then y'all hide behind y'all kids and say why y'all don't want to see him being him, right? That Old Town Road song fucked y'all up, right? Because everybody was jamming the Old Town Road, the kids was getting down the Old Town Road and everything else. Then he came out as gay and suddenly it became about protecting the kids, right? Kids don't know nothing about whether or not Old Town Road had anything to do with gay sex or whatever else, but y'all think it does. So now y'all got to protect these kids, right? Y'all forget that we came up in an era where, like, Prince was out here with his ass out, and Prince was out here with the ruffles and shit, and and the androgynous movement was real big back in the 80s and whatnot, right? We forget how, like, Rick James was out here with the beads and the braids and shit and the high heel boots and stuff like that. We forget how, like, Ron Isley was out here with the shirt tied up in the front and stuff. We forget all of that. Ain't none of us need an explanation for any of that shit. But suddenly we need explanations for Lil Nas X and why he is. Y'all telling on yourselves, man. Y'all telling on yourselves how easy it is to troll y'all. For one, And for two, for those of you who say y'all don't have a problem with gay people,
shut the fuck up when grown folks is talking.
Well, yeah, what Black Dynamite said, but but no, for real, like y'all tell on yourselves when y'all start acting as though like what Lil Nas X is so over the fucking top. Like real talk, so over the top. Lil Nas X is being a gay black man in the entertainment industry, and it becomes an agenda because he's a gay black man in the entertainment industry, and we gotta protect the kids. What the fuck was the protection when we was out here listening to 2 Live Crew and it was asses shaking all over the goddamn TV? We didn't give a fuck. We didn't care. Where was the we gotta protect these kids from this when it was, tip drill and Nelly was sliding a motherfucking credit card down the crack of a stripper's ass? We didn't care. We couldn't wait for that fucking video to come on. Where was the protection for the kids when what that thing smelled like? These little, like that little low budget video, and I think it came out of Alabama or someplace. Like, yo, we was really looking forward to that shit. What was the protection for the kids for that? And y'all forget that sometimes y'all are surrounded by people who was around you when that shit was out and you was all for it. No, I get it. Sometimes we grow up, we change, we evolve, we have, we there's growth. But at the same time, I want us not to be hypocritical about shit too. Understand that when you start talking about Lil Nas X, oftentimes that's more so about your discomfort than it is about these kids. And I wish y'all would stop hiding behind these kids as opposed to just like owning up to the fact that like, yo, there's some things that I don't understand and I should probably like read up on some shit. Or I should probably try to learn about some shit other than my, what these preconceived notions that I come into this situation with. That's what it really is. It's about you. It ain't about Lil Nas X. It's about you. So yeah, man. I just thought it was funny. I think it's funny that y'all get so upset about Lil Nas X and all these little antics because that's exactly what he wants. That's exactly what he wants. Lil Nas X, truth be told, man, I don't listen to Lil Nas X's music. Haven't listened to any Lil Nas X's song since Old Town Road. Every time I see something about Lil Nas X, though, I'm sorry, not every time, but the vast majority of the times that I see anything about Lil Nas X is coming from people who don't like Lil Nas X. Y'all watch that dude so that y'all can talk shit about that dude. If y'all didn't care, y'all wouldn't pay attention to that dude. Bottom line, hate watching is still fucking watching. So be mindful of that. The next time you feel like you are compelled to share with the rest of us all of your disdain for Lil Nas X and whatever the fuck it is that he's doing. Meanwhile, if you really didn't care, you would just let that shit slide on past your timeline, not even paying no attention. But, yo, man, that's in Blue Blazers. Another story that's in Blue Blazers has to do with one R. Kelly. And the reason why R. Kelly is in Blue Blazers is because there was a young man who said that he had been sexually molested by R. Kelly at the age of 17.
Oh, yeah. There's powerful niggardry at work here.
Now, here's the irony in all of this, right? The irony in all of this is that many of the people that I see who have so much to say about Lil Nas X and him just being an outwardly gay black man in the entertainment industry are some of the same motherfuckers who can't wait to tell me that the next time R. Kelly drops an album, the next time that R. Kelly is going to be in concert, y'all can't wait to support that brother, right? Y'all gonna go to the concert, y'all gonna pay for the album, y'all can't wait for him to get off this, get out of jail and all this other shit. And yet R. Kelly has an actual record of abusing young black people, namely young black girls. Y'all don't find any irony in that at all? Really? All right. But we get this story here. This comes out of fox2detroit.com. I believe there's video attached to this. Let me see if I can, let me pull this video up so you guys can watch. Right along with your man, Spann. Hold on a second while I pull this up. All right, let's do that. And that. And this. And this. All right. Here we go. Check this out, y'all.
Now to the sex trafficking trial of R. Kelly. Today was day 8 in court, and there was more testimony, this time from a male witness who claims he was a victim of R. Kelly. Fox 5's Lisa Evers was inside the courtroom and joins us now with today's developments. Lisa.
Well, Steve, we heard some shocking testimony this morning and actually all throughout the day in the federal racketeering trial of R. Kelly, this time from a man who claims he was just 17 and working at a McDonald's drive-thru when he met Kelly. He says Kelly came through in an expensive foreign car and gave him his telephone number. Now, the accuser using...
Those of us who are from Chicago remember that R. Kelly was like a staple at the Rock and Roll McDonald's downtown. I'm just saying. I'm sorry.
The alias Lewis says Kelly promised to help him with his aspiring rap career, luring him to a sprawling estate to record a demo. Instead, Lewis claims Kelly asked him how far he would go in order to have a music career and whether he'd ever fantasized about sex with men. Lewis says Kelly then knelt down and performed a sex act with him. Lewis testified on another occasion he was with Kelly in a detached garage with a boxing gym inside. Kelly snapped his fingers 3 times and a naked woman came out from under the boxing ring and performed a sex act with him while the R&B singer allegedly watched. Still in his senior year in high school, as all this happened, Lewis says Kelly used a camcorder or iPad to record the incidents. While the pattern of what he says is similar to other accusers, he's not part of the complaint and was initially identified as John Doe number 1. This former prosecutor explains.
Regards to his testimony, because there are no charges regarding John Doe number 1. However, the prosecutor is using his experiences to try to corroborate the other Jane Doe experience and say that they are similar in terms of modus operandi, in terms of motive.
Now, late this afternoon, Lewis came under tough cross-examination from Kelly's attorney, who tried to discredit him using conflicting timelines. As for prosecutors, they say they're intent on continuing to show that he's a sexual predator so that they can put him behind bars for the rest of his life. We're live in downtown Brooklyn at Federal Court. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News. Steve, back to you.
All right. So, yeah, man, the interesting thing about that is we've already known that R. Kelly has been a predator to young black women, young black girls, for the better part of 25, almost 30 years now. I guess the interesting thing and the wrinkle in this is that now he's accused of also abusing a young black boy. And you just kind of wonder some of the people who were not necessarily, receptive to the idea that R. Kelly is, predisposed to abusing young black girls or also abusing young black boys, whether or not they would come off of the bullshit, man, and kind of renounce a bit of that support that they have given them. Now, I don't know if that's really what's going to happen. But the thing is, man, in regards to what the topic that we just got finished talking about when it came to Lil Nas X, it's man, you got R. Kelly out here who is a known fucking predator, who's been known to prey on our kids, and these same people are so upset at Lil Nas X, who's abused nobody that we know of, and R. Kelly's got this record, and yet they still can't wait to go to the next R. Kelly concert, man. So, yeah, man, that's in Blue Blazers. Now, another story that we got here in Blue Blazers. This, I think, is quite interesting, man. So let me pull this down. But this is quite interesting, man. So we get the story here. This comes out of Facebook, as a matter of fact. How many of you have ever thought about fellas, neckties? Some of us wear them for the job. Some of us wear them to look nice. We go to formal events and things like that. And, we wear neckties. Sometimes we wear bow ties, whatever else. Some of us wear them just because we feel like we want to look good, right? However, there's a young man. His name is Daniel, I believe. He's selling Daniel's rope ties, okay? Daniel's rope ties actually made from rope and they're neckties. And I'm just going to ask you guys real quickly, how many of you have ever decided or ever thought that a rope around your neck fashioned in a tie would look good? Because apparently Daniel is selling rope ties on Facebook, and I swear to God, these motherfuckers look like nooses. So let me pull this up so you guys can can kind of see some examples of this here. Let me do my thing here, and yeah. So check this out, y'all. Here's one of the pictures here of one of the rope ties here. He's got like the noose, kind of like tied up real tight right there, and then there's like the loose noose, the loose noose right there. Then you got another example here. Here's another example of the necktie as rope. He's saying that these are African neckties, okay? African neck rope ties. I'm gonna just say this right now. As I look at the as I look at this shit, because this shit looks absolutely fucking nuts to me. All I can think of is like some like racist motherfucker. Oh, like, here we go. He's even got mannequins with the rope ties on. All I can think of is some like Confederate down so like, oh my God, Jebediah, you ain't gonna believe this shit right here, man. Listen. Granddaddy would have a goddamn field day with this shit here, man. Can you believe that these niggers are out here pre-packaged with the nooses around the necks already? They're putting the nooses on, brother. They're putting the nooses on. Look at this shit right here, man. He's got the yellow noose, man. He's got the black noose. He's got the white noose. We can go up. We can roll up on a nigger. He's already got the noose. We don't even have to do any work, man. We don't have to make the noose. All we got to do is find a tree, buddy. All we got to do is find a tree, and we are good, man. We just got to find us one of these prepackaged niggers, right? We find us a prepackaged nigger, and we're going to be in good shape, man. We can just hang that nigger right there. He's already got the rope around his neck, man. We're great. We're good. If Granddaddy was here to see this shit, man, he would cry tears of joy, man. I swear to God, man. Granddaddy was here. Paw, Meemaw, and every last one of them, man. This is. I can't believe this. Can y'all see this shit here, man? Can y'all see this shit? Like, bruh, thought this was a good idea. Like, and I don't know if this is like just cultural disconnect. I don't know if this is because maybe he's from Africa and there's something different associated with this. Hold on. They got video and shit. Let me see if I can expand this video.
Of ties. As you can see, we got you here for weddings, parties. Just highlight us.
No, sir.
We're gonna bring you. We're gonna dress you.
No, sir.
In style. Just tell us your color. We'll deliver to you nationwide.
No, sir.
Yes, as you can see.
No, sir. Yeah, so he's got videos and shit like that, man. I'm like, yo, so, real talk though. Real talk. I might be tripping. I'm looking at that and I'm seeing nooses hanging pre hanging around niggas' necks and shit. Somebody else might see that and see a fashion-forward ass accessory. So I'm going to ask y'all, man, how y'all feel about the rope neckties, man? Are y'all feeling about the rope neckties the way your man Spann is feeling about the rope necktie? Because I'm looking at that shit there like, nah, nigga, absolutely motherfucking not, man. Absolutely motherfucking not. And we got a homie, Annette is in the chat room. She said, yup, they just have to find a tree. That's all they got to do. That is all they got to do. This is craziness in a motherfucking, like, real talk, like, come on, man. Come on, bro. What is you doing? He talking about weddings and shit. Like, yeah, we can ship all across the country. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I think you need to read up on the history of this nation before you start selling the motherfuckers like nooses around their neck, bro. Like, real talk. I'm sure he's probably getting a lot of backlash on the social media. Let's see. Just like the N-word, those nooses will become a term of endearment. I can see the likes of Jay-Z and P. Diddy rocking those nooses. Let's give it time, folks. Are you fucking crazy? Wait. Are you fucking crazy? And why would you look up or worship filth like them? They've never done anything or anyone. Okay, so somebody mad at like he even used Jay-Z and Diddy. He says Daddy and Jay-Z wouldn't have been in the field back then. They would have been working right beside the white man. Okay, so he's getting some backlash in the comments or whatever. And, people are going back and forth about whether or not Jay-Z and P. Diddy are like righteous black folks and shit. But yo, man, youngin out here selling nooses around the necks and shit as like a necktie. And I don't know. I don't know about that, but that's some blue blazers, man. That's some blue blazers. Now, another story that we got here in Blue Blazers has to do with one, well, not necessarily one, but dozens. Okay. So apparently, Dozens of California students and their parents are stranded in Afghanistan after a summer's trip abroad.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. There's no wonder you get D's and everything.
Yeah, man. So we get the story here. This comes out of thehill.com. It says that dozens of California students and parents are stranded in Afghanistan after taking a summer trip to the country. More than 20 students and 16 parents from the Cajon Valley Union School District in El Cajon, California, visited Afghanistan on summer vacation. Now they are among thousands of people who are waiting to leave the country amid the chaotic U.S. withdrawal that has caused political unrest across the nation, according to the Los Angeles Times. Cajon Valley Superintendent David Miyashiro alerted school board members on Tuesday that he will be meeting with Representative Darrell Issa to discuss the situation. Miyashiro told the news outlets that the families traveled to Afghanistan on special visas for U.S. military service and that the school district was able to provide government officials with information on the families as they worked to locate them. The stranded students reportedly attend different schools within the school district. Mike Serbin, who works with refugee families in the district and heads the Family and Children Engagement Program, was the first person to hear about the students' predicament. Serbin contacted Miyashiro last week and told him that multiple families had reached out to him concerned that their students would lose out on classroom instruction due to being in Afghanistan. Congressman Issa and his staff are working diligently to determine the facts on the ground, any bureaucratic barriers that can be removed, and the best ways to help those stranded to leave Afghanistan and return home safely. We won't stop until we have answers and action, said ISIS spokesperson until we have answers in action, an ISIS spokesperson informed Miyashiro in an email, the Times reported. Cajon Valley School Board President Tamara Otero told the Times that the students and their families had plans to fly out of Afghanistan and had already purchased tickets, but unfortunately they were not able to get to the airport. The biggest concern is that the Taliban closed the airport, Otero said. We're so worried about our students that are stuck there. We'll do the best we can to get them out. I'm gonna just say this here right now, man. Who in the fuck thought that sending these kids to Afghanistan was a good idea? Who thought that was a good idea? Hey, you know what? Hey guys, I've got an idea. How about for our summer vacation, we go to Kabul? Yeah? I mean, come on, guys. There's a lot of culture. There's a lot of, we can study the war zone there. There's a lot of craters and destroyed buildings. We can study the political ramifications of our mishandling of the Afghanistan war. But we can better do that while we're there. Yeah. So let's go to Afghanistan. Who the fuck thought that going to Afghanistan with high school students was the good thing to do? Who thought that was the smart? Come on, man. What the fuck are y'all thinking about? Think about this for a second. Just a couple weeks ago, there were a couple of diplomats. I believe there was a couple of House of Representatives members who took their asses over to Afghanistan to oversee, or to go and witness the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and people gave them shit about going over there because they took away with resources from, the actual withdrawal effort, right? Because they're they got to make sure that they have the proper security around them, and they don't become a target of the Taliban and terrorists and everything else. So y'all went to Afghanistan, of all the places in the fucking world to go. Y'all chose Afghanistan, a fucking war zone, to take high school kids. What the fuck were y'all thinking about? Seriously. What were y'all thinking about? That's crazy. And then they get stuck over there, and now they gotta reach out to the government and everything else to help them get their asses back home. That's just dumb. I'm sorry. Guess. I'm saying I'm willing to bet, bruh. I'm willing to bet it wasn't one of us. Right? I'm willing to bet it wasn't one of us over there, man. And if it was probably one or two, maybe one. But I doubt any of us was over there. All right? But, yo, man, that's in Blue Blazers. Now, another story that we got here in Blue Blazes has to deal with Dog the Bounty Hunter. Y'all remember Dog the Bounty Hunter, man. I don't know if anybody even still watches this show. I don't even know if his show is still on TV anymore, man. I don't even know if that's still a thing. But Dog the Bounty Hunter went on, he spoke with Entertainment Tonight's host, Kevin Frazier, and he said that he had no... First of all, Dog the Bounty Hunter said that he thought he had a pass to use the N-word.
Oh, yeah. There's powerful niggardry at work here.
Yeah, so we get the story here. This comes out of thegrio.com. It says, reality star Dog the Bounty Hunter claimed he was given a pass to use the N-word by his brothers in prison. In an interview with Entertainment Tonight's Kevin Frazier, the reality star, whose real name is Dwayne Chapman, said, I thought I had a pass in the black tribe to use it. Kind of like Eminem. Did we give Eminem a pass? I can't remember if I've ever heard Eminem actually use the word or the term. I remember back in the day, like years ago, like Benzino would try to like expose Eminem. Like he had a beef with Eminem and he tried to like use like an old mixtape or some shit like that. I don't know if Eminem has ever had a pass to use the N-word or to say nigga on any of his albums or any of that shit. I don't know if I've ever heard Eminem actually say nigga on any album whatsoever. And I've listened to, like, you know, some of his earlier shit. I ain't listened to none of his later shit, but I ain't never heard Eminem actually, like, use the N-word in any of his, like music and shit. But, he says, I thought I had a pass in the black tribe to use it, kind of like Eminem. Who gave you this pass? Frazier asked him. Dog responds, the brothers. I like Kevin Frazier, like, yo, man, so who are these niggas? Right? Kevin Frazier hit him like, okay, you thought you had a pass. All right. Who are the niggas that gave you the pass? Because, you know, that's very important. Because we need to have a conversation with those niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you thought you had a pass and you say these brothers gave you a pass, but which one of those brothers? Like, which niggas are you talking about? He said he said, I had just got out of prison in 1979 after spending time 18 months in Texas. Dog answers, and it was probably three-fourths from the black tribe. So that was a word that was used back and forth as maybe a compliment. He then notes that he didn't know his past. His past to use the slur had expired.
Got him! Got him!
Yo! I didn't know my past. This ain't nigga expired, bro. I didn't know. First of all, like you hear Kevin, Kevin Frazier, like, yo, who are these niggas? But also, I didn't know my past expired. Like, you around people who don't know these niggas that you talking about gave you the pass in the first motherfucking place. All the black folks around you like, man, who are these niggas you talking about? You didn't know your past expired. Nigga, your past never existed. He said Chapman adds to say a racist name doesn't qualify to make you a racist. He also claims that he is more than 30% Apache and that he has never been a racist. I swear to God, I love when white folk somehow trot out their Native American or like Black American bloodline to justify why they say the shit that they say. Meanwhile, their whiteness never recognizes these. Like, oh, better yet, I'll put it like this. You 30% Apache, right? Somehow you believe that you being 30% Apache, because everybody likes to claim this Native American ancestry, but you believe that your 30% Apache also gives you credence to be able to call black people niggas anytime you feel like it. No, motherfucker, that's not how it works. That's not how... I can't even find my motherfucking what's in that. But that's not how this works, bruh. That's not how any of this works. You thought that because you were 30% Apache that you can call black people niggas. No. No. Right? But he says it said the production of and airing of Chapman's reality show on A&E stopped in November 2007 after Chapman's son Tucker, who had a black girlfriend, told National Enquirer on an audio tape of his dad using the N-word more than 6 times in the conversation. Dog the Bounty Hunter resumed again in February 2008. Chapman's daughter, Bonnie, recently said her father and his fiancée, Francine Fran, didn't invite her to their wedding because she's a supporter of Black Lives Matter. She says he is both racist and homophobic. So let me get this straight. You want to invite your own daughter to your wedding because she's a supporter of Black Lives Matter. But also, you feel as though the blacks, the brothers the brothers, gave you a pass to call them niggas. Meanwhile, you don't even believe that Black Lives Matter? All right. Like, come on. Dog, the level of fucking, like, cognitive dissonance it takes for these people to like move around in this way, to believe the things that they believe, like the mental gymnastics that they exhibit is amazing. I'm sorry, but I can't defend my dad's racism, Bonnie wrote. When it comes to the system on Unleashed TV, my father was fired by the platform for using racial and homophobic epithets toward my fellow cast members on the show. I have expressed time and again my ever-growing disappointment in my father's progression into his old racist ways. So, yeah, man. Dog the Bounty Hunter. How dare you say Black Lives Matter? Those niggers, and they gave me the pass to say the nigger word, but those niggers are out there causing trouble. You know, and the brothers gave me the reason, and the brothers are the ones that told me I could say nigger, okay? So you can't call me a racist. That's the other part. That's the other part about that. Like, and even going back to the whole Lil Nas X stuff, right? Racists never want to actually be called racist. Homophobes never actually want to be called homophobes. Like, y'all are out here doing the shit that racists do. Y'all are out here doing the shit that homophobes do. But Lord forbid anybody call y'all on the actual shit that y'all are doing. Right? How dare you call me a racist while I'm out here doing racist shit? How dare you call me a homophobe while I'm out here doing homophobic shit? The nerve of you motherfuckers. Cancel culture is a goddamn disease. Right? They always try to flip that shit. But yo, man, that's in Blue Blazes. And that has been Blue Blazes.
What in blue blazes is going on out here? Did this nigga just say blue blazes?
Y'all know what time it is, though.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Yeah, that's enough of that shit. It's proud to be an American time here at the Spann Report podcast. And our first story here in Proud to be an American has to do with the CDC, as a matter of fact. So the CDC has actually asked, and I know this is like the end of the weekend and shit, but the CDC has asked nearly 80 million unvaccinated Americans not to travel for Labor Day as the U.S. averages 160,000 daily COVID-19 cases, man. Now, I kind of wonder how many of these motherfuckers actually took heed to this, this request. I doubt very seriously that many of them did, but we're going to read this story here. This comes out of CNN.com. It says that due to the surge of COVID-19 cases, the director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is asking unvaccinated Americans not to travel during the Labor Day holiday weekend. The U.S. is surpassing an average of 160,000 new COVID-19 cases a day, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. With the spread of the more transmissible Delta variant and many students returning to the classroom for a new academic year, the rise is concerning officials and health experts. First and foremost, if you're unvaccinated, we would recommend not traveling. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said at the White House COVID-19 response team briefing on Tuesday. Walensky said that while people who are fully vaccinated can travel with precautions, current transmission rates mean that they too need to take COVID-19 risk into consideration when deciding whether or not to travel. Health experts said that the vaccination is the best way to protect against the virus spread, and many have attributed the spike in cases to the large portion of Americans who are unvaccinated. Of those eligible for vaccinations, which includes Americans 12 years old and older, 38.6% are not yet fully vaccinated, according to this data from the CDC. This week, data presented by a CDC vaccine advisor showed a hospitalization rate 16 times higher in the unvaccinated population than those vaccinated. And the surge in hospitalizations, particularly among unvaccinated people, has stretched hospitals thin. So here's the thing. I know a lot of folks who, as I saw this story like on social media earlier in the week, I know a lot of folks were talking about, like, yo, man, they keep harping on the unvaccinated and all these other things, man. It's like, yeah, because the evidence is showing that the unvaccinated are the ones who are primarily spreading this shit. But the other part about it is this, is that the recommendations have never really changed for those who are unvaccinated. When they started telling people that they can go without their mask, it was for the unvaccinated. When they were telling people that, you know, you can kind of like, you know, move freely and go to these concerts and things like that without a mask, primarily that was for the unvaccinated. The thing is, here in America, we've been operating under the so-called honor system, and many of these people just don't have any honor about them, right? So if you got a lot of people who are out here buying fake COVID-19 vaccination cards, you got people who are unvaccinated who are out here unmasked and just like mingling amongst other people as though everything is everything. You got people who have just decided to like, yo, despite all of the evidence that the unvaccinated are the ones who are driving this pandemic and the ones who are in hospitals and stretching the hospital staffs thin and really wearing thin on the patients of the hospital staffs, are just out here out and about like everything is everything. Yo, man, like those are the folks. Those are the selfish motherfuckers who are out here spreading this shit. And so, yeah, as we talked about, you know, we talked about this the last time I was on the mic, man, when they were talking about, you know, vaccinated people are out here spreading this and, you know, vaccinated people are showing up in hospitals, and we ran through the numbers, man. The vast majority of people who are spreading COVID-19, the vast majority of people who are ending up in hospitals, the vast majority of people who are dying from this disease are those who are unvaccinated. That's just the truth of the motherfucking matter. And it doesn't give a fuck how you feel about it. So yeah, man, it's just kind of crazy that like the CDC is pleading with people because here in America, we got rights and we got freedom, and I'm proud of being American. I'm gonna just go to Tennessee, man. I'm gonna just go to Tennessee and I have a good goddamn time, man. I ain't wearing a goddamn mask anywhere I go, man. And if anybody comes up to me talking about wearing a mask, I'm gonna just put a motherfucking hole in their ass. You hear me? Because this is America. You know, it's just kind of crazy, man. And we got Annette in the chat room. She says, one of my friends just died 3 weeks after taking the first shot. She didn't make it to the next one. And I'm very sorry about the loss of your friend. And that real talk, that is, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. That's fucked up. that is fucked up. She never made it to the second shot. Praying for you and your friend. Like real talk, you hate to hear people who are checking out of here when they really didn't. They really shouldn't have to. They really shouldn't have to. A lot of these deaths, a lot of these infections are preventable. And yet and still we still have folks who are passing away because of it. So, yo, man, that's in Proud to Be an American. Another story that's here in Proud to Be an American has to do with the fact that because the COVID-19 pandemic is running roughshod here in America, is that the European Union has decided to take the United States off of its safe travel list, and it backs travel restrictions for American tourists. Yeah, and so the European Union has recommended that its 27 nations reinstate restrictions on tours from the U.S. because of rising coronavirus infections there. The decision by the European Council to remove the United States from a safe list of countries for non-essential travel reverses its advice in June, when the bloc recommended lifting restrictions on U.S. travelers before the summer tourism season. And here's the thing, right? So you get a lot of people who always talk about, like, man, y'all always talking about, it's always the vaccinated motherfuckers is always on unvaccinated people's heads, man. Y'all vaccinated. Why y'all worried about us? Leave us alone. We ain't got to take that motherfucking shot. And the reason why is because y'all make it hard for the other people because of decisions like this. So say, for instance, if you had like you were planning to go to Greece or some shit like that, right? You had this Grecian like trip or cruise or whatever else that you had planned. And you had planned this shit for like a year or so. And then you find out that because of the coronavirus predicament that we have here in the United States, because so many people are deciding not to get vaccinated, that the European Union is saying like, yo, man, you need to keep your American ass where the fuck you at. We ain't really fucking with y'all right now. Y'all need to stay where y'all at, because y'all over there passing that disease around, and we don't need that shit over here. You out of all this money. Some of that money you might be able to get back because, you know, deposits and shit like that. Some of that money you might be able to get back. Some of that money you might not be able to get back. And you did everything you were supposed to do. You got vaccinated. You social distance. You wear your mask. You were like, yo, man, I finally got all my shit. And now suddenly, because of the ways in which Americans have been acting, you can't go on said trip because of these other motherfuckers deciding like, why you worried about me? You vaccinated. You supposed to be protected. Why you worried about me? Like, nah, nigga, because of you, I can't take this fucking trip. Because of your dumb ass. Like, it's a very selfish thing, man. It's just selfish, man. It says the guidance is non-binding, though, and U.S. travelers should expect a mishmash of travel rules across the continent. National EU governments have the authority to decide whether they keep their borders open to U.S. tourists. Britain is no longer part of the EU, so the recommendation doesn't affect U.S. travel there. The U.S. remains on Britain's amber travel list, meaning fully vaccinated adults arriving from the U.S. to the U.K. don't have to self-isolate. Additionally, a COVID-19 test is required 3 days before arrival to the U.K., and another test is needed 2 days after arriving. Coronavirus deaths have surged in the U.S. recently, rising to over 1,200 a day, and the new daily cases are over 150,000 a day. So yeah, man, the nation is looking at, not the nation, but the world is looking at the United States like, man, y'all the ghetto. y'all the superpower, but y'all the ghetto. So that's crazy. But that's in Proud to be an American. And our last story here in Proud to be an American has to deal with the fact that Texas has decided that they are going to curb women's right to an abortion. What? Yeah, I said Texas is going to, kind of curb women's rights to an abortion. So we get the story here. This comes out of NewYorkTimes.com. It says the law, which prohibits most abortions after 6 weeks and went into effect on Wednesday, was drafted by Texas lawmakers with the goal of frustrating efforts to challenge it in federal court. Since the Supreme Court refused just before midnight on Wednesday to block a Texas law prohibiting most abortions less than a day after it took effect and became the most restrictive abortion measure in the nation. The vote was 5-4, with Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr. joining the court's 3 liberal members in dissent. The majority opinion was unsigned and consisted of a single long paragraph. It said the abortion providers who had challenged the law in an emergency application to the court had not made their case in the face of complex and novel procedural questions. The majority stressed that it was not ruling on the constitutionality of the Texas law and did not mean to limit procedurally proper challenges to it. But the ruling was certain to fuel the hopes of abortion opponents and fears of abortion rights advocates as the court takes up a separate case in its new term this fall to decide whether Roe v. Wade, the landmark 1973 decision establishing a constitutional right to the procedure, should be overruled. It also left Texas abortion providers turning away patients as they scrambled to comply with the law, which prohibits abortion after roughly 6 weeks. Now, here's the thing, and this is why a lot of folks, especially considering a lot of folks who talk about, my body, my choice, especially those on the right, especially those who are COVID vaccine anti-vaxxers, so to speak, right? Y'all are really, this is how we know that y'all don't really mean that shit. This is how we know that y'all don't really believe in that shit. Is because y'all would co-opt the language of the abortion or the pro-choice movement in order to not take a vaccine, but then y'all will go on the back end and support legislation that will keep a woman from being able to choose what's best for her when it comes to child rearing, or better yet, birthing a child. Maybe whether that be through whether that be through incest, whether that be through rape, whether that be just through an unplanned pregnancy, that y'all would throw a monkey wrench in that whole program, right? And so the thing about this law is that it allows for the citizens to sue a provider or anybody who would allow or who assisted a woman in obtaining an abortion. So whether it be an Uber driver who drove her to an abortion clinic, whether that be someone who knew that she was going to an abortion clinic, whether that be the doctor who performed said abortion, that anybody in the state could sue all of those folks to the tune of $10,000. Now, the reason why this is kind of fucked up is because, for one, this law is coming from people who claim to be that they're for small government. And so by saying that they're for small government, what they've done is this. They've tried to deputize regular everyday citizens as a sort of Gestapo, where you watching for other people to go do some shit. And I think they talking about going to get an abortion. Let me go ahead and sue them right now so that she can't get it. And if it's proven that she does try to get it, I get $10,000. Why is that any of your business? Right? Because the truth of the matter is this: like, a lot of these folks are talking about how they're pro-life and they're for the sanctity of the child and everything else. But when it comes time for that woman to like need like any financial assistance for that child, when that woman needs any sort of like prenatal care for said child, when that woman needs to find daycare for said child, when that woman needs to educate said child, she's on her fucking own. Y'all care about the baby when they're in the womb, but when they hear it, like they on their own. And if they really gave a damn about whether or not to like prevent abortion, like real talk, like if we keep it in the buck, vasectomies are reversible, right? Vasectomies are reversible. If this is about getting rid of abortion, then why aren't we talking about dudes getting vasectomies and getting it reversed when it's time for them to have children? Right? We're not talking about that. We never talked about that seriously because truth be told, a lot of you motherfuckers think it's ridiculous to talk about it that way. Right? This has nothing to do with the control. This has nothing to do with like, the sanctity of life and all this other shit. This has everything to do with the control over a woman's body. And the Supreme Court allowing for this shit to come, like, kind of flourish in the way in which it is now opening the door for other states to like, kind of like, do their thing. So now Florida is considering a law similar to this one. Now North Dakota is considering a law similar to this one because now Texas has found a blueprint to keep women from being able to execute the rights and the choices for their own bodies. And this is America. I don't ever want to hear Americans talk about how Afghanistan treats women and girls in their country. I don't ever want to hear Americans talk about that shit when we don't even believe that shit for our own people here in this country. I don't want to hear that shit. I just don't. So yeah, man. Yeah, man. That's been proud to be a motherfucking American.
That I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
All right, but y'all know what time it is.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Oh, whoa. I played that song way too long. Shit, my bad. Yo, it's Champ of the Week time here at the Spann Report podcast, man. And our Champ of the Week here is none other than a personal mentor of mine, a personal mentor to many, man, a personal mentor to hundreds, thousands maybe. It's one person who many of you may not know, but he's very important. He was very important to me and the person that I became. His name is J. Roy Williams, man. I'm sorry, J. Roy Jones. And Mr. Jones is the Champ of the Week this week here at the Spann Report podcast. Mr. Jones made his transition last week. And he was a teacher of mine at Olive Harvey Middle College in Chicago. And I know I've talked a lot about, how much the middle college meant to me. It came at a very needed time in my life. That school was so nurturing and so impactful that every time I went home to Chicago, if I didn't go back to the school, like to kind of visit, I would talk to somebody from the school to like just kind of let them know I was in town. And every time I would go back to school, man, I would go back to, to the OHMC. I would try to get a chance. I would try to get to Mr. Jones's office and go holler at him. Mr. Jones was, I've talked to you guys about Mrs. Hawkins, and she was the principal of the school. And Mrs. Hawkins was the matriarch of Olive Harvey Middle College. Mr. Jones is our motherfucking cool ass uncle, right? Mr. Jones taught a manhood class. Mr. Jones taught a brotherhood class. Mr. Jones was oftentimes a chaperone on many of the out of town trips that we went on. So like our school went to trips to like Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, Paris, France, Dakar, Senegal. We went on historically black college college tours. So you had the college tours that went through Alabama, Mississippi. I'm sorry, not Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. And then you had another one that went through Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. And I'll never forget, man, I went on a college tour to Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and I didn't necessarily have all the monies to go. And I gave Mr. Jones a check. I gave him a check, and Mr. Jones looked at me. He said, "That's Spann. You know damn well this is a cash only motherfucking transaction. Get your silly ass on this bus. Get your silly ass on this bus." Nah, but real talk, man. Like Mr. Jones, like he was somebody who a lot of young men, because I really want to kind of focus on it. He was somebody who a lot of young men felt like they could talk to and like and learn from. Like I'll never forget. There was a time like my senior year in high school. My grandmother had found my father singing out of the Checkerboard Lounge in Chicago, and he had kind of like started coming around briefly. And I took him up to my school, and the first person I made sure that he went to go see was Mr. Jones. And me, my father, and Mr. Jones sat in Mr. Jones's office, and we kind of went through the history of our relationship. And Mr. Jones talked with us about like how much we both needed each other, and the things that we needed to do in order to kind of right that relationship. And it didn't necessarily happen, but I appreciated Mr. Jones for like taking that effort and doing that. And I never forget, like there was subsequent times where I would go to visit with Mr. Jones, and he would ask about my father, like, "Yo, man, so y'all get that right?" And I would just kind of tell him like, "Nah, man, it's not what it's supposed to be." And he was like, "Y'all will get it right, though. I believe in that." He was a perpetual optimist in that way. I'll never forget. There was a picture that we took my senior year in high school for prom. It was me. It had my boy Dilla on that picture. One of my partners, Princeton. Rest in peace to Princeton. My partner Tyrese, my brother Taurus, and Mr. Jones. And Mr. Jones had that picture hanging up in his office at the school. And every time I would come in there and to kind of visit with Mr. Jones would always like kind of give me this real big hug, man. And it's just like point at that picture like, "Yeah, man, y'all was my guys. Y'all was my favorites. I've been here for a long time, but y'all was my favorites, right?" He would always tell me that, man. And I believed him. Man. Mr. Jones was a very sincere dude, man. Like Mr. Jones wasn't really about the bullshit. Mr. Jones was one of those people that tell you like, "Man, you lie to your mama." You're like, "No, you lie to the police. Don't lie to your mama." You know what I'm saying? That was one of those Jonesisms. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to end up on the hilltop, man, not doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because for whatever reason, there was this hilltop like liquor store not too far from the school, and he always associated the hilltop liquor store with niggas that wasn't doing nothing, right? I remember when I got caught up on my gun charge, man. When I got caught up on my gun charge, I went up to the high school. I had a court date that I had to come to Chicago for. I went up to the school because it wasn't too far from where the courtroom was. And I went up to the school and I talked to Mr. Jones, and he said, he asked me, he said, "Do you got an attorney?" I said, "Nah, man, right now I got this damn public offender." And Mr. Jones was like, "Don't worry about that." He got on the phone real quick, called up, I'm forgetting my attorney's name right now, but he called him up. He said, "I got a guy here. I got a student up here, one of my former students. He's got a little bit of trouble. I need you to kind of help him out." And that attorney that Mr. Jones put me in contact with is what got that charge thrown the fuck out. And I've always wanted to kind of talk with Mr. Jones, especially after the last year. When we lost Miss Hawkins last year due to COVID, and it was imperative to me. I wanted to talk to Mr. Jones last year because I wanted to. I swear, man, I wanted to make sure that man knew how much he meant to me, how much he had impacted my life. And one of my friends, she's a teacher now at the school. And when I reached out to her, she told me that, like, Mr. Jones hadn't been doing well and that he probably wouldn't remember me if I called him because the number that I had, he wasn't answering anymore. And that he wouldn't remember me. It had, I believe he may have had Alzheimer's or something like that. And it just really wasn't good for him. So to hear that, like, he had made a transition, it hurt. Like, I was at work when I found out. I wanted to go home as soon as I found out. It's like one of those things, like I said, he was like an uncle to me. He wasn't my blood uncle. He wasn't like, a blood relative or anything, but I felt like he had meant to me just about as much as any of my blood uncles ever really did. Because he poured so much into us as students. He poured so much into me personally that I felt like I had lost a blood relative. And so when we lost Mr. Jones, we lost a real gem. And I didn't go home from work that day. I know a lot of you guys, when I told y'all on social media that I felt like going home, a lot of y'all told me, like, man, you should just probably take your ass home. I didn't go home because I felt like I would have been letting, like, Mr. Jones down. Mr. Jones used to tell us this thing about, man, you got to fake it till you make it. And I felt that was another Mr. Jonesism, like, fake it till you make it, man. Fake like a scholar until you become a scholar, goddammit. Like, that was a thing Mr. Jones used to, like, kind of drill into us. And I felt like if I'd have went home, man, I wouldn't have been, I felt like I'd have just been, like, failing him in some sort of way. But, nah, man, real talk. Mr. Jones meant a lot to a lot of people. And I am a better person because Mr. Jones was in my life. And I hope going forward that the man that I have become and will continue to grow into is someone that Mr. Jones would be proud of, man. I mean, he meant that much to me. He meant that much to me. Mr. Jones was a real solid dude, man. And not many of us are fortunate enough to have a teacher mean that much to us in our lives going forward. And I was very fortunate to have a Mr. Jones be what he was to me. And like I said, not only just myself, but to many others in the Olive Harvey Middle College family. So, Mr. Jones, salute to you. Job well done. And it's upon us. The job is upon us, and I think we should take it off from here. But, yo, man, it is time for me to get up off this mic. I've been talking for a little while now. But, of course, before I get up out of here, I got to remind you guys how to get in touch with us here at the Spann Report Podcast and let your voice be heard. Go ahead and hit up that hotline at area code 313-288-0485. That's area code 313-288-0485. Leave those voicemail messages. Of course, they'll be read here live on the show and responded to in kind. You can also email us here at feedback@thespannreport.com. That's feedback@thespannreport.com. Go ahead and leave us those emails, and of course, those emails will be read here and responded to here on the show as well. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My name on both of those platforms is Mr._Spann. So go ahead and follow me there. Chop it up with your man Spann throughout the week. Also, hit up our website at www.thespannreport.com. You can go there, watch replays of the show, vote in the polls, donate to the show as often as you like, as much as you like. And, of course, we really appreciate every dime over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. Also, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and or Stitcher Radio. Those 5-star reviews are the ones that get right here live on the show. We really appreciate everybody who goes about the business of doing that. Doesn't cost you a dime, just a couple minutes of your time to let everybody know why you're rocking with us over here at the Spann Report Podcast Network. It was good to be back on the mic with y'all, man. I'm a little rusty, but we're gonna keep that, we're gonna kick that rust off because we coming back next week with another show. But until next time, fam, peace.